The Morathi Confederacy spread terror across the stars. In just 3 solar cycles, they conquered 17 star systems. Their living warships, part biological and part machine, destroyed everything in their path. The Galactic Alliance fought back, but kept losing. Commander Tejo stood motionless on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Eternal Dawn. It was the last major warship they had left. His 4 blue eyes stared at the holographic display showing the Viridian system. A small red dot blinked rapidly, then disappeared completely. "We just lost another outpost," said Lieutenant Minji, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's engines. Tejo's upper hands gripped the console while his lower hands formed tight fists. "How many survivors?" "None detected, sir." The bridge fell silent. It was the same story everywhere. The Morathi left no one alive. They didn't take prisoners or accept surrenders. Their ships consumed the defeated, using the neural patterns of the dead to power their terrible machines. Admiral Jiwoo entered the bridge, her crystalline skin reflecting the emergency lights in fractured red patterns. As a luminary, her people were known for their logical minds and photosynthetic skin. Right now, she looked dimmer than usual, a sign of extreme stress. "Commander, I need to speak with you privately," she said. They moved to the small tactical room adjacent to the bridge. Once the door sealed shut, Jiwoo activated a security field that prevented any eavesdropping. Whatever she wanted to discuss was serious. "The Council has made a decision," she said. "We're going to contact Earth." Tejo stepped back in shock. "The humans. That's crazy. They've made it clear they want nothing to do with us." "We have no choice left," Jiwoo replied. "The Zinthar have fallen back to their core worlds. The Vexeri fleet is scattered. The Keltorians surrendered yesterday. And they were executed anyway," Tejo added grimly. "Exactly. There is no surrender with the Morathi. They won't stop until every free species is gone." Tejo walked to the small viewport. The stars looked cold and distant. Somewhere out there, Earth and its colonies remained untouched by the war. The humans had isolated themselves centuries ago after the disastrous first contact. "They won't help us," he said. "Why would they? We tried to study them like specimens when we first found them. The Proxima incident killed millions of their people." Jiwoo's crystalline face couldn't show much emotion, but her voice carried her desperation. "That was 300 years ago. We've respected their borders ever since. Our long-range scans show they've been building something massive in their system, something they've hidden from casual observation. A weapon? We don't know. But whatever it is, they'd been preparing for something. Maybe they've been waiting for this moment." Tejo laughed bitterly. "Or maybe they've been preparing to leave this galaxy entirely, to escape from species like us and the Morathi." On the main display, another alert flashed. 3 more Morathi warships had been detected entering the system. They had perhaps 6 hours before they reached the Eternal Dawn's position. "I've served the Alliance for 40 cycles," Tejo said. "I've seen wars come and go. But this is different. The Morathi aren't fighting for territory or resources. They want to consume everything." Jiwoo touched the communication panel. A small cube emerged, glowing with stored data. "This contains our formal request for aid. It includes everything we know about the Morathi, their tactics, their weaknesses, though we found precious few of those." "And if they refuse?" Tejo asked. The Admiral's voice grew cold. "Then the galaxy falls, species by species, world by world, until the Morathi reach Earth, and then the humans will face them alone." Tejo took the cube. It felt heavier than it should. "I'll take our fastest ship. The Eclipse is prepared and waiting. It's small enough to slip past the Morathi blockade. You'll need to use the Carillion Passage. It's dangerous, but less dangerous than the alternative." Tejo finished. "I know the route." As he turned to leave, Jiwoo said, "There's something else you should know. Our deep space monitors detected unusual activity in the Sol system last cycle. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. Whatever they've been building in there, it's becoming active. Tahoe nodded. Maybe they already know what's coming. One more thing, Commander. Ju's voice dropped even lower. If the humans agree to help, don't return with them. What? Why not? Because the Council has reason to believe there's a Morathi spy somewhere in our command structure. Information has been leaking. That's why our defense strategies keep failing. Cold dread filled Tahoe's chest. You think there's a spy on this ship? I don't know, but I can't take the chance. Deliver the message and stay with the humans. Guide them if they'll let you. 6 hours later, the small stealth ship Eclipse detached from the eternal dawn. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it nearly invisible against the black of space. Inside, Commander Tahoe plotted a course through the dangerous Carillan Passage, a twisting route through a nebula filled with radiation and gravitational anomalies. As the ship accelerated away, Tahoe looked back at the Alliance flagship growing smaller in the distance. Admiral Ju would try to hold off the Morathi as long as possible, buying him time to reach Earth. His mission was clear but seemingly impossible. Convince a species that had turned its back on the galaxy to now fight for it. The humans had every reason to refuse. 3 centuries ago, they had been betrayed by the very Alliance now begging for their help. But as the Eclipse entered the swirling gases of the nebula, Tahoe clung to a single hope. The humans had survived the Proxima incident. They had rebuilt. They had grown stronger in their isolation. Perhaps they had been waiting for this moment all along. Behind him, the first flashes of weapon fire lit up space as the eternal dawn engaged the approaching Morathi fleet. The war had reached this sector. Soon, it would reach Earth. Whether as allies or as the next target, humanity's isolation was about to end. High Commander Suman stared at the alien message playing on the main screen. The small alien ship had appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. It had followed all the proper protocols established centuries ago, transmitting identification codes and maintaining a safe distance. But its message had shaken Earth to its core. "Play it again," she said quietly. The screen flickered, showing the 4-eyed alien commander. His blue skin looked pale, even for his species. "This is Commander Tahoe of the Galactic Alliance vessel Eclipse. I come bearing an urgent request from Admiral Ju and the Alliance Council. The Morathi Confederacy has begun a war of extinction against all sentient life. 17 systems have fallen. Billions are dead. We request Earth's assistance as our final hope for survival." Suman touched the screen controls, freezing the image. 300 years, she whispered. 300 years since the Proxima incident. 300 years of preparing, building, training. Behind her, Commander Doyen stood at attention. His uniform was crisp, his posture perfect, but his eyes revealed his tension. The Security Council has finished their 3rd emergency session. They're waiting for your recommendation. Suman walked to the massive viewport. From Earth's orbital command center, she could see the blue planet rotating slowly below. It looked peaceful, beautiful. Most of its 10 billion citizens had no idea what was happening. They didn't know about the alien ship. They didn't know about the Morathi threat. But they knew about the Proxima incident. Every human did. It was taught in every school on Earth and in the colonies. How the Alliance had first contacted humanity, pretending to come in peace. How they had secretly taken human test subjects. How their experiments had caused a catastrophic biohazard release on Proxima Centauri, killing the entire colony of 3 million people. "What's your assessment of the alien story?" Suman asked. Doyen tapped his tablet, bringing up the analysis. Intelligence confirms his ship matches Alliance design. The energy readings from the nebula he traveled through match his story about a battle. And our deep space monitors have detected unusual energy signatures from the direction he claims the Morathi are advancing from. So he's telling the truth. It appears so, Mom. Suman smiled faintly. The Alliance betrayed us once, left us to die. And now they come begging for our help. Yes, Mom. What's the status of Operation Lazarus? Do-hyun straightened, his voice shifting to a more formal tone. The fleet is ready, ma'am. All 20 carrier groups. The Mars ground forces can be mobilized within 24 hours. The Jupiter defense platforms are at full power. Operation Lazarus can be initiated within 48 hours. Suman nodded slowly. For 3 centuries, humanity had appeared to withdraw from galactic affairs. They had built up their solar system, established colonies on Mars, Venus, and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. To any outside observer, humans were focused only on their own development. But in secret, they had been preparing, building weapons and ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, training soldiers and pilots for a war they always knew would come eventually. Has the alien commander seen any of our military installations? She asked. No, ma'am. His ship is docked at Outpost 7. It has no sensors that can penetrate our security measures. As far as he knows, we're still the same relatively primitive species the Alliance encountered 3 centuries ago. Suman pressed a button on the console. A new image appeared, showing the solar system from above. Hundreds of small dots representing various installations began to glow. Activate all shipyards, she ordered. Bring defense grids online. Issue the Alpha 9 alert to all colonies. Do-hyun blinked in surprise. Then we're... Yes, Suman said firmly. We're going to war. Throughout the solar system, massive structures that had been disguised as mining operations suddenly lit up with activity. Orbital platforms that appeared to be research stations began deploying weapon systems. From underground bunkers on Mars, millions of soldiers emerged to board transport vessels. On Venus, the cloud cities opened their hidden hangar bays, revealing squadrons of fighter craft. In the asteroid belt, what looked like ordinary mining equipment transformed into missile platforms. Beyond Neptune, stealth monitoring stations began actively scanning deep space, searching for the enemy the Alliance feared so much. In Earth's moon, the massive underground complex known as Fortress Luna powered up its main systems. The facility, built inside a hollow section of the moon itself, had been humanity's greatest secret. It contained the command center for humanity's true fleet, ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Commander Do-hyun received reports from each installation, his tablet chiming constantly. All systems responding, ma'am. The Seoul Defense Network is online for the first time. And our guest? Suman asked. Commander Taho is waiting in the diplomatic quarters. He has no idea what's happening. Suman nodded. Bring him here. It's time he saw what humanity has become. 30 minutes later, the alien commander stood on the command deck, his 4 eyes wide with shock as he watched the activities unfolding throughout the solar system. This is impossible, Taho said. Your species showed no signs of this level of military development. Our observations indicated you were focused on internal development, on science and exploration. Suman smiled coldly. After the Proxima incident, we learned an important lesson. Trust no one. Prepare for everything. On the main display, the first wave of human battleships emerged from their hidden docks around Jupiter. Each vessel was nearly twice the size of the largest Alliance warship. Dark, angular, and bristling with weapons, they moved into formation with practiced precision. We've been watching the galaxy, Suman continued, learning, building, waiting for the day when threats from beyond would find us again. Taho stared at the ships, his voice barely audible. You knew this would happen. Not specifically. But we knew something would. The universe is vast, Commander Taho, and rarely kind. Suman turned to her communications officer. Send the message to the Alliance. Tell them humanity accepts their call for aid. She paused, her eyes hardening. And may God have mercy on the Morethi, because we will not. Taho watched in awe as more ships appeared, emerging from hidden facilities throughout the system. Humanity had never stopped preparing for war. They had simply been waiting for the right moment. And that moment had finally arrived. Fleet Commander Junseo of the Morathi Confederacy stood on the command platform of his flagship, the Endless Hunger. The massive living ship pulsed around him, its walls breathing with a slow rhythm. Neural fluids flowed through transparent conduits, carrying the thoughts and memories of thousands of conquered beings who now served as the ship's processing core. Status report, Junseo ordered, his gray skin gleaming under the organic lights. We have entered the Arcturus system, Commander, his second-in-command replied. Scans show minimal defenses, only a small Alliance outpost on the fourth planet. Junseo smiled, revealing sharp teeth. This would be another easy conquest for the Confederacy. The Arcturus system was rich in rare minerals and biological specimens, perfect for harvesting. Full sensor sweep, he ordered. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. The tactical officer, a small Morathi with enhanced neural connections to the ship's systems, began the scan. His eyes rolled back as he connected directly with the ship's sensory network. Detecting the Alliance outpost, the officer reported. Population approximately 3,000. Minimal weapons, 2 small defense vessels in orbit. Junseo nodded with satisfaction. The Alliance was becoming predictable. They would scatter their forces, trying to protect too many systems with too few ships. It made conquering them almost too easy. Standard approach pattern, Junseo commanded. First wave target the defense vessels. Second wave prepare for ground assault. The fleet of 60 Morathi warships moved forward in perfect formation. Each ship was a unique biological entity, grown rather than built, containing the neural patterns of species they had conquered. The ships weren't just controlled by their crews, they were partly made of them. On his command platform, Junseo watched the tactical display with growing satisfaction. The Arcturus system would fall within hours. Then they would move to the next system, and the next. The Confederacy's hunger was endless. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're detecting a transmission from the Alliance outpost. Ignore it, Junseo said dismissively. It's probably a surrender request. They will join our ships either way. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, it's strange. They claim to have contacted Earth. They say human forces are coming. Junseo laughed. Several other officers joined in. The humans were a myth, a boogeyman story the Alliance told to comfort themselves. Earth had isolated itself centuries ago after some incident with the Alliance. Many believed the humans had died out or devolved back to primitives. Tell me, officer, Junseo said with amusement, do you believe in ghosts? Before the officer could respond, the tactical officer suddenly screamed. His body went rigid, his connection to the ship's sensors overwhelming his mind with information. What is it? Junseo demanded, his amusement vanishing instantly. Spatial anomalies, the tactical officer gasped. All around us, energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Junseo turned to the main view screen just as space itself seemed to tear open in dozens of locations surrounding his fleet. It wasn't like the jump points the Alliance used. These were controlled ruptures in space-time itself. And through these ruptures came ships, hundreds of them. Unlike the smooth, organic curves of Morathi vessels or the elegant designs of Alliance craft, these ships were angular, dark, and brutally functional. They bristled with weapon ports and armor plating. They moved with precise coordination, quickly surrounding the Morathi fleet. Impossible, Junseo whispered as his sensors registered the sheer firepower now targeting his fleet. His ship's biological systems were struggling to process the data. What are these vessels? The answer came moments later as all Morathi communication channels received a transmission. The image showed a human female in a dark uniform with gold markings of rank. This is Admiral Minje of the United Earth Defense Force, she said, her voice cold and precise. You were warned once, 3 centuries ago. There will not be a second warning. The transmission ended. Junseo stood frozen, understanding crashing down on him like a physical weight. Humans, The isolation had been a deception. They hadn't hidden away in fear. They had been preparing. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "All ships, defensive formation. Ready countermeasures." But before his orders could be fully implemented, the human vessels opened fire. It wasn't the energy weapons the Alliance used. These were physical projectiles, fired at incredible velocities. Railguns, missiles, technologies the Morathi had considered primitive and ineffective against their advanced biological shields. They were wrong. The first salvo tore through 3 Morathi ships instantly. The projectiles moved so fast, the ship's living defenses couldn't adapt. More followed. Explosions bloomed silently in space. "They're targeting our neural cores," the tactical officer shouted. "How do they know where?" His words were cut off as the ship shuddered violently. Warning signals flashed throughout the living tissue of the command center. Juncio gripped the organic railing as his ship convulsed around him. "Counterattack. All ships, fire at will." The Morathi vessels attempted to regroup, launching their own attack. Bioplasma weapons discharge, their energy seeking out the human ships. But the human vessels moved with unexpected agility, their armor deflecting what little energy reached them. Then came the second wave of the human attack. Not weapons this time, but some kind of pulse. It washed over the Morathi fleet like an invisible tide. Immediately, the neural networks that powered their ships began to fail. The memories and consciousness of conquered species, stored in the ship's biological cores, screamed in unified agony. The endless hunger trembled around Juncio. The walls pulsed erratically. Neural fluid leaked from ruptures in the conduits. His crew fell to the deck, clutching their heads as the ship's pain transferred to them through their neural links. "What is happening?" Juncio demanded, fighting to stay upright. "What are they doing to us?" "Electromagnetic pulse," gasped his science officer, "specifically calibrated to disrupt our neural networks. They knew exactly how our ships work." Juncio stared at the tactical display in horror. His proud fleet was being systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were now exploding or drifting powerless. The humans were not just fighting them. They were exterminating them with cold efficiency. "Emergency jump," he ordered. "Get us out of here." Only 3 ships, including his own, managed to activate their jump drives. As the endless hunger tore free of normal space, Juncio caught a final glimpse of his fleet being reduced to drifting debris. In just 18 minutes, the battle was over. Of 60 Morathi vessels, 57 were destroyed. For the first time in the war, the Morathi had been defeated. In the emergency jump coordinates, far from the Arcturus system, Juncio slumped on his command platform. The ship around him was barely functioning, its biological systems struggling to repair themselves. "Send a message to the Supreme Leader," he ordered, his voice hollow. Tell him the humans have entered the war." And for the first time since the Morathi began their conquest, fear spread through their collective consciousness. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was coming for them. The news spread quickly through the Alliance territories. Humanity had defeated a Morathi battle group. Not just defeated them, destroyed them. 57 ships lost in less than 20 minutes. The 3 survivors had fled in terror. On Vexari Prime, deep in the underground caves where the last of their fleet had hidden, Admiral Sunjo watched the recorded battle footage for the 10th time. His feathered crest rose in excitement as the human ships appeared through their strange spatial portals. "It's not possible," his second-in-command whispered. "No one defeats the Morathi like this." Sunjo turned to his crew, his yellow eyes bright with renewed hope. "Send the signal to all Vexari ships. We emerge at dawn." Across Alliance space, similar scenes played out. Species that had been hiding, surrendering, or preparing for extinction suddenly found new purpose. If humans could defeat the Morathi, perhaps they weren't invincible after all. On the Zinthar homeworld, Chief Scientist Dunji finally convinced the Council to deploy the experimental weapons they had been developing in secret. "The humans have given us a window of opportunity," she argued. "We must seize it before it closes." Far away on the Morathi homeworld, a different mood prevailed. Supreme Leader Hyunwoo stared at the holographic display showing the destruction of their fleet. His gray skin had paled to almost white, a sign of extreme distress among his kind. "How?" he demanded, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "How could primitives who haven't been seen in centuries possess such technology? Such tactics?" His circle of advisors remained silent. None had answers that would satisfy him. "Our intelligence indicated they were isolationists," the head of information finally said. "All observations showed they focused only on their own system, on internal development rather than expansion. They deceived us," Hyunwoo hissed. "They deceived everyone." The military advisor stepped forward. "Supreme Leader, we have recalled our fleets from the outer territories. We are consolidating our forces to defend our core systems." "And the humans?" The advisor's expression darkened. "They are advancing. Quickly. They've already liberated the Arcturus system. They're moving toward Proxima Centauri." Hyunwoo understood the significance. Proxima Centauri had been the site of the humans' first colony outside their home system, the site where the Alliance had betrayed them centuries ago. "They're reclaiming what they lost," he said quietly. "And then they'll come for us." In the following weeks, humanity's war machine moved with terrifying efficiency. Their fleets liberated 7 star systems in rapid succession. Each engagement followed a similar pattern. The human ships would appear suddenly through their quantum tunnels, surround the Morathi forces, and destroy them with overwhelming firepower. On the ground, things were even worse for the Morathi. Human soldiers wore powered armor that made them nearly invulnerable to standard weapons. Each soldier seemed to fight with the strength of 10 Morathi warriors. They moved with precision and coordination that suggested extensive training and preparation. After the liberation of the Epsilon Eridani system, Alliance Admiral Juwu met with human General Jae-yun aboard the human flagship Retribution. The human vessel dwarfed the Alliance cruiser, its dark angular form a stark contrast to the elegant lines of Alliance design. "Your forces are impressive," Juwu said carefully as they walked through the ship's corridors. "We had no idea Earth had developed such military power." General Jae-yun, a tall woman with stern features, nodded slightly. "That was intentional. After the Proxima incident, we realized we needed to prepare, but we also needed to ensure no one saw us as a threat until we were ready." "Ready for what?" Juwu asked. "For this," Jae-yun gestured to a view screen showing the ongoing battle in the system below. "We always knew there would be threats in the galaxy that the Alliance couldn't handle. So we built, we trained, we planned." They entered a large command center where dozens of human officers monitored the battle. On the main screen, Morathi ships were being systematically destroyed by human vessels. "Your approach to warfare is different from ours," Juwu observed. Jae-yun's expression hardened. "The Alliance fights with codes of honor, with restraint. You try to minimize civilian casualties, preserve infrastructure, take prisoners." She paused. "The Morathi exploited those tendencies. That's why you were losing. And humans don't share these restraints." Juwu asked carefully. "We understand something the Alliance forgot," Jae-yun replied. "When fighting an enemy that seeks your total destruction, half measures lead to defeat. We don't seek to dominate the Morathi. We seek to eliminate the threat they pose. Permanently." Later that week, General Jae-yun addressed the full Alliance Council. Representatives from 27 species gathered in the Great Hall on Centauri Station. Many were seeing the human in person for the first time. "We studied your confederacy for years before intervening," Jae-yun told them. "Your mistake was fighting the war they wanted you to fight. Humanity doesn't play by others' rules." A Zinthar counselor stood, his crystalline form glittering under the lights. "We are grateful for humanity's assistance, General, but many of us are concerned about what happens after the war. Will Earth return to isolation, or will you become the new power in the galaxy?" Jae-yun smiled slightly. That depends on the galaxy you want to build. We have no interest in conquest or domination. But we will not hide again. On the Morathi homeworld, Supreme Leader Hyunwoo called an emergency meeting of his war council. Reports from the front lines grew worse each day. 7 systems lost. 40% of their fleet destroyed. Ground forces overwhelmed wherever they faced human troops. We underestimated them, Hyunwoo admitted, but we still outnumber them. We still hold most of our territory. His chief strategist, a battle-scarred veteran named Doyo, shook his head. Numbers won't matter, Supreme Leader. The humans aren't fighting like the Alliance. They're targeting our command structures, our supply lines, our neural collection facilities. They're attacking the foundation of our society, not just our military. Then we must adapt, Hyunwoo insisted. Find weaknesses in their strategy. They cannot be perfect. Daho hesitated before speaking again. There's something else, Supreme Leader, something our intelligence has discovered about the humans. What is it? The Proxima incident. We always believed it was simply a failed first contact between the Alliance and Earth. But our agents have uncovered records suggesting it was much worse. The Alliance didn't just fail diplomatically. They experimented on humans, caused a catastrophic biohazard release. Hyunwoo's eyes widened. And the humans have been preparing their revenge ever since. Not revenge, Daho corrected. Survival. They've been preparing to ensure such a thing never happens again, to any species under their protection. For the first time since the war began, Supreme Leader Hyunwoo felt true fear. The Morathi had awakened something far more dangerous than they realized. They had given humanity a reason to fight. The combined fleet of human and Alliance ships emerged from quantum tunnels around the Morathi homeworld. 500 warships, arranged in perfect formation, faced the last defense line of the once mighty Confederacy. On the surface of the gray-green planet below, billions of Morathi civilians watched the skies with terror. Their leaders had told them for years that they were the superior species, destined to consume and rule the galaxy. Now the galaxy had come to their doorstep. Supreme Leader Hyunwoo stood in the Planetary Defense Center, surrounded by his remaining advisors. Holographic displays showed the human Alliance fleet taking positions around their world. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked quietly. 342 vessels, Supreme Leader, his military commander replied. "We've recalled everything. Even the training ships, even the old defense platforms." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "And our ground forces. Every soldier, every weapon is deployed to protect our major cities. The civilian population has been moved to emergency shelters. What had begun as a war of conquest had become a desperate fight for survival. The Morathi, who had shown no mercy to countless worlds, now faced the same fate they had inflicted on others. Aboard the human flagship UNS Retribution, Admiral Minjae studied the enemy formations displayed on the main tactical screen. Her dark eyes narrowed as she analyzed their positioning. "They expect us to attack head-on," she said to her officers. "They've arranged their heaviest ships in a defensive sphere around the planet. Their weapon platforms are all aimed outward. Standard defensive formation," her tactical officer noted, "just like the simulations predicted." Minjae nodded. "They still don't understand how we think, even after all this time fighting us." She turned to her communications officer. "Signal the Alliance fleet. Operation Scalpel begins in 30 minutes. Instead of the frontal assault the Morathi expected, the human fleet deployed its newest weapon. Thousands of small autonomous drones that slipped past the defensive line using stealth technology. Each drone was barely larger than a human hand, but carried a specialized electromagnetic pulse generator. The drones swarmed around the Morathi vessels, attaching to their hulls near the neural cores, the biological computers that powered their ships. Then, on a synchronized signal, they all activated at once. Across the Morathi fleet, ships began to convulse as their neural networks were disrupted. The living vessels trembled, their weapon systems firing randomly or shutting down entirely. Crew members connected to the ship's systems screamed in pain as the electromagnetic pulses scrambled the neural interfaces. As the Morathi fleet struggled with this invisible attack, the Alliance ships moved forward. Their precision strikes targeted engines and weapon systems, disabling rather than destroying the enemy vessels. In the defense center, Hyunwoo watched in horror as his fleet's coordination collapsed. "What are they doing to our ships?" he demanded. "Some kind of targeted EMP attack," his science advisor explained, her voice shaking. "They're disrupting the neural cores without damaging the rest of the ships. I've never seen technology like this. Can we counter it?" "No, Supreme Leader. The neural cores are the foundation of our technology. Without them..." She didn't need to finish. Without the neural cores, the Morathi lost their greatest advantage, the biological processing power harvested from conquered species. Their ships became simple metal shells, their weapons useless. Above the planet, the battle continued. But it wasn't the slaughter many had expected. The human forces disabled Morathi ships with surgical precision. Alliance vessels moved into position to capture the drifting enemy craft. Not a single planet-destroying weapon was deployed. No civilian centers were targeted. The humans fought with calculated restraint, dismantling the Confederacy's military capability while leaving its civilization intact. After 6 hours of one-sided battle, Supreme Leader Hyunwoo made the decision that would define his place in history. He sent a transmission to the UNS Retribution. "This is Supreme Leader Hyunwoo of the Morathi Confederacy. We surrender to the human alliance forces." When Hyunwoo was brought aboard the Retribution to formally surrender, he expected extinction. The Morathi had shown no mercy to defeated enemies. Why would humans be different? But instead of execution, he was presented with terms, strict, uncompromising conditions that would ensure the Morathi could never again threaten galactic peace. Disarmament, supervised elections, war crime tribunals for military leaders who had ordered atrocities, reparations to damaged worlds. Why? Hyunwoo asked Admiral Minje after reading the terms. "Why not simply destroy us? After what we've done, no one would blame you." Minje's expression remained neutral. "Because that's not who we are. Humanity learned long ago that ending a threat doesn't always mean ending a people. Your society took a dark path. Now you have a chance to find a better one." In the weeks that followed, Alliance peacekeeping forces established bases on the Morathi homeworld. Human engineers helped dismantle the more dangerous Morathi technologies. Medical teams treated civilians who had been harmed in the fighting. Across the galaxy, the news of the Morathi surrender sparked celebrations. Planets that had lived under occupation were free again. Species that had hidden in fear could return to their homes. But many questions remained. Would humanity, having won the war, retreat back into isolation? Would they take the Morathi's place as the dominant force in the galaxy? 1 month after the surrender, Admiral Minje addressed the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from 83 species, including a delegation of reformist Morathi, gathered to hear her speak. "Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs 3 centuries ago because we needed time," she told them. "Time to understand what kind of galaxy we had entered. Time to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." She paused, looking at the diverse faces watching her. "We built our fleets and trained our soldiers not because we desired war, but because we understood its inevitability. The lesson of the Morathi Confederacy is one the galaxy must never forget. Peace requires strength, and strength requires vigilance." Mindy's voice grew stronger as she continued. "Humanity will not retreat again. We take our place among the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians against those who would subjugate others. The galaxy shuddered when we entered this war. Let it now breathe freely knowing we remain to prevent the next one." Throughout the liberated worlds, oppressed peoples celebrated their freedom. Throughout Alliance territories, citizens looked to the skies with new hope. And throughout human colonies, people prepared for their new role in galactic affairs. No longer hiding, no longer waiting, but standing openly as the shield of civilization. 3 months after the war's end, Commander Tahoe, the Alliance officer who had first brought the plea for help to Earth, stood with Admiral Juwu on the observation deck of the rebuilt Alliance headquarters. Below them, human engineers worked alongside Alliance specialists to construct new defense systems. "Do you think they planned this all along?" Tahoe asked. "To become the protectors of the galaxy." Juwu's crystalline features caught the light as she turned to him. "I don't think they planned for this specific outcome, but they planned to survive. To ensure that what happened at Proxima would never happen again. And now the sleeping giant has awakened," she said, watching the human and Alliance crews working together below. "And the galaxy will never be the same."